Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Focus more on masculine nature. You know what? You got all these guys on here, you got a whole thing, and we're talking about the women this and the women that. More dudes need to focus on their own masculine nature. Seriously, they need to bring up their own masculinity. I preach the gospel of the body game, but that's not even just as much for aesthetics as it is just to get your energy up, get your masculinity up, get your testosterone up. Because that's one key. And then developing your self-discipline, that's another key. And just be getting into your aggressive nature. The nature of See, we talk about the feminine nature, but ultimately the feminine nature is to be receptive. And if we talk about it just on a pure sexual basis, it's to be receptive to masculine energy. Now, so many guys saying, well, they messing with these bad boys or these thugs, Pookie and Ray Ray. And I'm like, okay. Or some guys too focused on another man's looks. They got all these theories and stuff. I'm like, well, dude, instead of working on that or worried about that, how come you not getting in the gym or getting into the martial arts dojo doing something to increase your own masculine nature? Are you getting out moving around? Are you being aggressive in life? Are you taking action? Are you solving problems? That's a masculine thing. Are you exercising some type of discipline? That's a masculine thing. Do you have a vocation that you focused on? And when I say that, that's a masculine thing, because every man should have every single man, I don't care what it is. And this is whether or not this makes money or not. Every man should focus on mastering some body of knowledge, some skill. Every man. Because that's a holistic thing. That's a masculine thing. Masculine energy always wants to do stuff, always wants to have a job. Because if you're a man and you just sitting around and there ain't something that you good at, something that you know, you got some issues. And they don't, like I say, they don't have to be, if it's something that will make you money, that's good. That's a great thing, but it might just be some obscure hobby. It could be something, but you know all about it. That's a masculine thing, because it's doing something, it's being active. That's the key word with masculine energy, active. If you have some issues in life, are you actively trying to solve it? It's just as masculine just to say, all right, this is a more intellectual type of problem. I'm going to solve it intellectually. That's still masculine energy. That's still energy. Now, that's more mental energy, and you still should be, even in that case, you still should be getting into your physicality. Can you take action? Understand, one thing that turns on a woman is just masculine energy. That's why you will get everybody talking about like looks, money, and status, or even game, but then you get that dude who's just into some raw masculinity. And you'll see that mainly in other countries. You'll see that with the men in other countries outside of Western culture. Because one thing with Western culture, there's a distinct war on real masculinity. Let me say that again. In Western culture, there's a distinct war on masculinity. And it ain't really just coming from like feminists and stuff. It's coming from other men trying to suppress a group of men from rebelling against the system. Because that's one thing. When you have a critical mass of men in a particular group or an oppressed group or social class who are in their masculinity, you cannot keep them down for long. Because one part of the masculine nature is the desire to create boundaries. To create a boundary. Like the average man, their boundary is roughly 3 feet away from their body. That's why some men might be ready to fight if you come too close to them. That's why some men, they'll allow others to violate their boundaries or something, but you have to question it. That's why some men might be ready to fight if you like come across their yard or you touch some of their property or you just scratch their car. And that's why, because you violated the boundary. Now, it ain't exactly healthy sometimes, and sometimes it gets a little crazy, but that's a natural man. And then when you get a group of men who join together, they create a large boundary. The history of the world has been shaped by men who created boundaries. whether it's the Samurai, the Lakota Sioux, the Knights Templar, the Ashanti men in Ghana, the Nazis, the Israeli Mossad. Those are boundaries. Football teams, basketball teams are boundaries created by men. That's a masculine nature, like men playing sports. Like one thing, it's kind of a bad thing with participation trophies, because sports was one way that men would get into their manhood. Many of the lessons I learned in life was from playing sports when I was young, because often I'd be either the team captain or seen as a leader on the team. So that developed a lot of skills, it developed a lot of discipline. Because it used to be before the age of participation trophies, you had to make the team. Now you still have that. You still have select teams. You actually had to try out for it. And as far as I know, you had to. You had the chance of being cut from the team. But it's a feeling a man gets when he's accepted into a boundary. That's why you have different teams have colors and everything. That's why the other team is bad and you're good. But those are boundaries. That's part of masculine nature. It's part of masculine nature to impose your will on the environment, even if it's just your little small space, to be territorial. And of course, women don't get that. This is a little tangent. Women don't get that. Women by nature violate boundaries naturally. So they violate it naturally. But what you have out here, you got a lot of guys not really trying to enforce their own boundaries, or they not trying to impose their will. Instead of taking action, they're complaining. Like you got a lot of guys complaining. You got guys complaining, well, these women out here, they're going for Chad and Tyrone or Pookie and Ray Ray. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not in your masculine nature if you're going to complain. What are you going to do about it? Because a man takes action. He's going to do something. That's why you got revolutions in some place. That's how far some men will go. They will pick up guns and they'll say that's how much it means to be a man. But see, some guys just go along with it, and really, any type of victimhood where you claim it and you're not taking action, that's a feminine thing, because it's the feminine nature to want to be rescued, or to somebody take pity on them. The man is figuring out, I got to do this. Like the man who's like, you got many men on here. If you really listen to their tone, they want the women to, look at them, feel pity, and just go with them, without them having to do anything. They don't want to compete with the Pookie, Ray Rays, Chad, and Tyrones. They don't want to do that. They want the woman just to ignore the energy that these men bring, and just deal with them. That's not masculine. The masculine man is going to say, I'm going to do something. Like the greatest moment, I'm going to tell you what. The greatest moment, whenever I'm either coaching or observing someone, the greatest moment that I always see is when they get pissed to the point they take action. That's when the change happens, especially for a man. When that man get to the point he say, look, I can't take this shit anymore, I'm gonna go change. That's when everything changes up for him. That's when everything changes, because he's getting into his masculine energy. He's taking action, and he's imposing his will on the thing he needs to impose it on the most, not the outside world, but on himself, his animal nature, that part of him that needs to be dealt with. In fact, that's the greatest thing a man can do, is attack which is within him, that's holding him back from doing what he need to do in life. Because once he conquers that negative self, that shadow self, and learns how to bring it under his control, then he can do anything. But that's where the focus really has to be. Yeah, it's good to know female nature and understand it, even study it, but it can't be put on a higher pedestal or a higher level than getting into your own nature as a man. So I want y'all to think about that, and I want y'all to focus. Get out there, take action. I don't care what the issue is. If you got some issue, you don't like where you live, you don't like the job you have, you don't like your circumstances, take action. That's what it means to be a man. Peace and blessings.